Hello, fellow rosarians. Thanks for joining me. We're in the garage. I want to talk to you about propagation success. So a few weeks ago, I shared with you the steps that I was taking to try to improve my success with propagation. And that was after a collaboration that I did with Jason from Fraser Valley Rose Farm. And he offered some things maybe that I wasn't doing properly that I could improve. And so since then, I have taken into account all of those tips from that video. So if you're interested in finding out what I tweaked to get to this point where I have rootings, check that out. So today, we're going to look at the rootings, what to look for, what to expect, and the next step forward once you have rootings. What I have found so far is I've tried two different ways to propagate with the canisters, the glass canisters, and then the bins. And what I have found is that the glass cookie jars root about a week sooner than being in the bins. It's amazing. As soon as it hits that 21st day, that's when you're going to start seeing the roots. And so what I did, Jason had mentioned that you need to boost your confidence, find something easy to root. And so I took that and I decided to root ivy. And I know that's funny. Ivy is so prolific that it practically has roots shooting out of stems that aren't even touching the ground. But I thought, you know what, if I can't propagate that, then I've got real problems. So I first started propagating ivy. And so I've been able to propagate, I don't know if there's maybe 20 over there, but I really like the variegated ivy, and I like to have that trailing out of my containers. I think it just looks so pretty. So I started with something that I had a very good chance that I was going to be able to propagate with. After I was successful with the ivy, I moved on to my boxwoods because I love an English box hedge, and I knew I wanted to add more in the yard. And so as I took the cuttings off of the boxwoods, I was able to successfully root, and you guys, it rooted with almost 100% success rate, the boxwood. And so what I did also was I captured Jason's motto, which is putting as many plants as you can in a container, because he has a limited amount of space. So I thought, well, why not? So in here, you'll see I have rooted, this looks like 6 boxwood, and I'm going to show you how to put them in their new pots in a second. So then after I successfully rooted the boxwood, and I've got like 80 of them now, I was trying my hand at roses, and so you can see that I have successfully rooted on the roses. And that's why I like using the clear containers, because as soon as it's near that 21 day, I can easily see if it needs to be repotted, if I've been successful. And in this case, you can see I don't have a drain hole, but they're not really draining up until this point. They don't have any moisture. They're only getting the moisture from the humidity of the dome, and I have not added any additional moisture. After I pot them up and I've got that moisture in the soil, that's it. They don't get any more until they start producing their roots. And I think that part of the success of that is that these roots are digging down deeper and deeper and looking for that moisture. And if they hit the moisture too soon, that's when you start having a problem with the roots rotting. But in this case, they're just going gangbusters trying to find the moisture. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to pot these up in a second. The other thing that I want you to consider doing that has been helpful for me is I mark with painter's tape when to check them, because I get real anxious and I lose track of time, and it's like watching paint dry. And so I put on here, I count what the 21-day mark is, and so I'll say in this case, check this one December 2nd, check this one December 6th, December 8th, so I know that the only ones that I'm really highly scrutinizing are the ones that have hit that 21-day mark. And I do have a couple that are not showing roots through the plastic, and those are actually, I think, down in one of the bins here. They're not showing roots but they're not showing rot either. And so Jason said that you're going to give them 8 weeks. So I'm going to keep on giving them ample amount of time just in case they're taking a little bit longer to root, because every rose is going to do its own thing. So what else do I do every day when I come out here? I make myself laugh when I come out here, you guys, if you could see me, because every day that I come out and I walk out the garage door, I say, "Good morning, babies," something along those lines. And just to make my son laugh, he was out here one day. Not only did he hear me say that, but then as I went through every single cookie jar, I was like, "Good morning, good morning." And he was like, "Mom, seriously?" And it just made me laugh. Anyways, I made sure that I come out every day, and I'm going to take the humidity dome off. So if you look here at this one, you might be able to see it on the camera there. There is so much humidity. And Jason had said that when he sees that there's that much humidity, he actually shakes it off. Well, this doesn't shake off for me. So what I've done that's easier is every morning after I come out and check on everything, I just leave the lids slightly ajar. So just to the side so that we've got this airflow here, and I leave them for about an hour, and that's it. So then I come back in, put the lids back on, and the other important thing, you guys, that I lost, I don't know if it was 20 or 30 cuttings, I was so upset, is I have heat mats on underneath here, and I use the monitor to tell me what the temperature is. And so I have them set for 70 degrees. And when I was putting the monitor on it to check the temperature of the mat, it was 100. I couldn't believe it. And so I highly suggest making sure that in your mental checklist of things that you do every day is make sure that the thermometer gauge is inside the soil, inside a dome. In that case, when it was up to more than 100, the thermometer had come out of the potting soil. So make sure that it's in the soil, and then check it a few times while you're first getting it set up, just to make sure you're comfortable. I've actually had to return 2 heating mats and 2 thermometers because it was not managing the temperature. The other ones are great, they're working fine, so I'm not sure what the issue is. So make sure that you're regularly checking the temperature of your mats so that it's just not getting too hot. And you're going to know that there's heat because they'll have more condensation. When I didn't have heat on them, I really didn't have that much condensation. Every day when I come out, I'm checking to see if any of the cuttings have died. Then once I have them successfully rooted, I'm keeping them in the bins. So these are my successful rootings, and I have marked them that they have rooted. And so what I do, because it's here in my garage and the temperature is, it gets down to the 30s. So what I do, they're on a heating mat, is I keep the lids slightly ajar. I want to use this to insulate them, but I don't want them to have that humidity. Jason mentioned that you take them out of the humidity as soon as they root. So when I have failed in the past with rooted cuttings, it's because I left them in a closed container for too long. They couldn't handle the humidity. I've also failed because I took them out of their pots too soon to pot them up. And I've also failed, I think, because they need to be hardened off. If you can imagine that they're used to being in a closed dome while they're rooting, and then as soon as I see roots, I say, okay, great. It's time to get out of the nest. You're gonna, be out of that humidity situation. I think you need to harden it off. And so what I do is a couple of hours every day, as I've seen that they root, I leave the top completely off. And then I go ahead at night and put it back on. And then I make that amount of time longer and longer without the lid until it's at this point where basically I'm just using this for insulation. It is completely ajarred and it's just sitting on top, but it's not in a humidity situation. But I love these bins. I love these bins to be able to protect the roses. Another successor that I forgot to add is that I removed that potting medium question where am I getting this ratio right between perlite and peat. So what I do now is I just buy the bag that's already made up and all I have to do is add the water, and that has reduced one more questionable failure point for me. I know I'm going to be successful with that soil. So now that we're going to go ahead and pot these up, let's go ahead and get our wet mixture. And when I say wet, you guys, you know that that means that it's moist, but if you squeeze it, water is not going to drip out, okay? And so we're going to pot up. These all go in their own pots now. So this is the container that I use for mixing up my mixture. And I actually am able to mix up a lot of it in advance. It stays really moist in here, so that if I know that I'm going to be using it over a week's time as I'm pulling things from the yard to propagate, I mix up a little bit extra. So then what I want you to do is get your plastic cups, and I use a steak knife, and I just make a hole in the bottom so that it can drain through. See that? Easy. And then, so then I'm going to go ahead and fill my soil in here, and I want you to pack this. You know, not like brown sugar, packing it till it's like a rock, but you know, just pack it down. And what I have found is that don't go skimpy on the soil. So sometimes you say, well, you know, if I only fill it up halfway with soil, it doesn't have roots anyways right now, or it's not going to utilize that area. What it comes down to is being able to hold that moisture in here. So the more soil, the more moisture, it will feed the rows easier for you so that it won't dry out. So then after you have this, I just like to use a lid as I'm making a mess. It makes it a little bit easier. So look at those roots. Aren't they fantastic? Let's take this out. I use gravity to help me squeeze it out. All right, and then once it's here, it just gently pulls apart all of these little babies in here. You see that? Gently pull apart the soil. Gently pull these babies apart. Look at this. Look at that. So happy. So now that I have that, what I do, let me take out a little bit of the soil. Okay, so then we've got this baby. We're just going to kind of sit it in here gently on top like that. And I use my finger on top of a root just to kind of stabilize it and hold it in place. Okay, I'm going to add soil now just to the top of it and gently tamp it down. And now it's in its own container. It's got a hole so that I can water them. I am now watering these at least once a week. I'm kind of checking them because when they get underneath the light, sometimes they dry out a little bit quicker. So just keep on watching them. So that one's good to go. Okay, and just as a test, I want to show you. Can you see this water meter? It shows that the moisture level it's just halfway there on the meter. All right, so now I have one more little baby. Uh-oh, it might be two in here. Well, wait, let's see. It is two more. All right, cool, very cool. Okay, so now that we've potted everything up, I've got a couple more to do after I let you go, but you are going to make sure you harden them off from the humidity. You're going to repot them, and then I want you looking at Jason's schedule. Remember, he says that you were going to give them liquid fertilizer now, at least once a week. So remember, you're going to give them half strength or quarter strength of liquid fertilizer. So you would use a fish emulsion, or my favorite, is Great Big Roses. And then once a week, you're going to be giving them that. So make sure that we start looking at Jason's schedule now of when they get fertilizer. And we're going to gradually move them up to twice a week fertilizer. And they're going to be fertilized and in this situation for 3 months. In the event that you see that their roots have totally filled a pot, go ahead and pot them up. So I know you guys are wondering how many roses I have successfully rooted. So up here, I have roses that have rooted. These are ones that I bought from a nursery, and I'm just waiting for them to get older before I can put them in the ground in the spring. But then down here are all of the boxwoods, and then my lovely ivy. And then I've got more rooted roses in here. Let's pull that out. These are just enjoying the warmth of the bin. And then I have 2 that are just rooted and are being hardened off right now. So we are looking at 29 successful rootings so far since I started Jason's method. And now all of these bins I will be looking at over the next couple of weeks to see if I have successfully rooted those, but I have very high hopes that we have been successful. But we'll keep on checking in so that I can share their progress with you. I hope this video was helpful, and I really hope that you are starting to try to propagate at home so that we can keep these babies in circulation. So thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one.